The ice at US Bank Arena is ready and waiting for hockey, but getting there is quite the process. That responsibility falls onto the shoulders of this man, Director of Facility Operations, Drew Curtis. He oversees a staff that spends nearly 3 full days getting the frozen floor ready for gameplay. And not surprisingly, he tells us that it begins from the ground up.
All right, well, once our ammonia system has built up a good base, which means it's frozen underneath the floor, once it reaches 17 degrees is the temperature that we're looking for. We came in Monday morning, it was 9.5, which was perfect. Of course, it made a layer of frost on the floor, so what we had to do before we even started doing anything was take water, just do a thin layer across the concrete to burn the frost off. And once that happens, we put roughly 5 or 6 layers of clear. We let that sit until it freezes up. Then we're going to go mix our white paint, which is in the 100-gallon drum, where we mix the white powder, which makes white, and that's what you see here is what goes down. We put 2 layers of clear on top of this white, and that's when we started to paint. Has to be just the right consistency.
This can be quite tedious. Every line, dot, logo, and marking on the ice is painted in by hand, meaning that every color has to be just right before any brush can meet the ice.
And basically what you do is you take it, have an empty bucket like this right here. This one's filled with water. If you have an empty bucket, you'll dump some of this thicker paint in here, mix water in with it to get it to be a little bit thinner consistency, and get it the right color. So basically all of this to it is a lot of just mixing water with paint and getting your right consistency. You want it to be more watery than you do solid. And that's basically what we're trying to work out over here at the paint factory.
Now that the paint is ready to go, Drew and his staff must measure out and mark where the lines, circles, and dots are to be drawn. And since some of those markings are to be in exactly the same place in every building, it has to be extremely precise.
Basically what we do here whenever we're laying out the lines, you can see we've got our outline here. It's just yarn that we have. We've got a guy on each end. We'll hold the yarn tight up against this side. You can still see the yarn kind of coming up. They'll hold it tight, stretch it across, and that gives us our perfect straight line. That pretty much applies to the blue line, the center line, and the same on the opposite side. And then obviously then they come through and paint in between the line, which gives you your right width. The yarn stays down. We keep it down, it stays down all year long. We swing on up this way. See our stencils for how we get the gold crease. We haven't done this side yet, but we're going to have our center line marked right here. And this is obviously the center line on the gold crease. We'll butt this up to the center line, trace our outline, and then we go to painting the gold crease.
It starts with a simple stencil outline, and then comes the paint. First, the inside of the crease is filled in stroke by stroke, and then the outlines are carefully painted by hand, leaving the finished product that you see at US Bank Arena every time you visit on game night. The next step is to draw the dots and face-off circles. Drew uses a special painting device to construct a perfect circle that measures exactly to professional hockey standards. Then, just like the goal crease, the face-off dots are filled in, as are the hash marks. With the official rink markings ready to roll on the ice, the next, even tougher step in this process is on deck.
The white's down, the clear coat's on top of the white, so it's sealed in, and now we're getting ready to lay the floor out.
Each logo you see on the ice starts as a printed image, which is then blown up into perforated stencils. They're measured and then laid precisely onto the ice. Once in place, blue chalk is powdered on top of the stencils, leaving behind it a perfect blueprint for the painters to follow. Then, just like all the other markings on the ice, they are each painted in by hand. Drew Curtis says that the process, although not hard, is very tedious.
Yeah, I mean, everything's easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it's not hard. It's just time consuming. Being here around the clock for 3 days sometimes is the hardest part about it.
Come see the finished product for yourself on Saturday, October 8th, as the Cyclones host their Power Play 5K Run and Walk, presented by Powerade.